Hey, what's up? It's me, your girl Nia. I am coming to you from Black Exploration with Nia. Drinking your water and minding your business is the best when you literally have a chemical imbalance that is causing the personality defect of narcissism. I only want to talk about this because I have supported men through this. And I know that when men are in dark times, they drink alcohol or they have lots of sex. What value
can you
bring to this person and see in them?
So how much did you have to fix your relationship with yourself first in order to have a successful relationship with someone else? Even in the realm of dating.
When it comes down to it, people's opinions are not facts, it's just their opinions. Okay, and we are back for another episode of Black Exploration with Nia. And I am excited to have my guest, Miss Stevie, on here. And she is going to just have our first episode of Girl Talk.
Yeah.
So typically, you guys, I do the 4 key areas of wellness and balance, which is spirituality, physical and mental health, financial freedom, intimacy. But today I want to do something different. I just want to have girl talk because I think that it's so important for Black women to show connection and to have casual conversations, because I know that we don't have this a lot about meaningful things. So thank you, Stevie, for being the first girl talk conversation that I've had. I've had interviews, but they've been like on a particular subject. So for this one, we're just going to free flow. And as usual, guys, this is a podcast for authenticity and transparency. So if you have a story to share, or you know someone who has a story to share and you feel like their story will be good on this show, definitely invite them to our show. Have them DM us or they can email us. So click the link to share this, like this episode, but most importantly, get whatever nuggets and tools you have out of it and bring us back questions. We want to have you a part of this show as much as possible too. This is super interactive. So I'm just going to pass the mic over to you, Miss Stevie, and let the audience know a little bit about you.
Ooh, about me. I am co-founder of an organization called Get Some Joy. We are a creative wellness agency. And I've spent the last few years really dialing down, I think, my efforts in terms of just doing things and trying to be extra professional and, get these high-powered jobs, et cetera, in order to just basically rest.
Yeah.
So that's where I am in my life, to rest and heal. And part of doing that is doing work that makes me feel good, that I feel is impactful. And so that's where Get Some Joy, the creative wellness agency, comes in. And in my personal life, I'm just really taking it one day at a time. I feel like I used to be very, have to plan everything out.
Yeah.
And I was in a phase for a while where I was really trying not to make mistakes.
Yep.
And so now I'm just I'm in a phase of abundant grace for myself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a new glorious thing. I'm taking a lot of things off my plate.
Yeah. And good for you for being a Black woman who feels worthy enough to take stuff off her plate. Because I can't tell you how many years it took me to, first of all, just acknowledge that I had too much on my plate. And that there was even a plate to have too much on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there. And then the fact that I had a choice to take the stuff that's off the plate that I didn't know that it exists there, that I was eating off of.
You thought that was part of the plate.
Yes.
And no, it wasn't. Somebody put that on your plate before you even were conscientious of it.
And I didn't even know what I was eating. I didn't have a choice to say okay, not today. I don't want to have this today. I was just literally waking up every day and just taking it.
Just grinding.
Taking it, but not even knowing. I think the most important thing that you just said was there's a choice in that, and we really form our choices around what's on our plate, but we also form our choices about what's not on our plate. And one of the most empowering things that I chose to do in trying to build a career and being a dynamic Black woman was innovating what that meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of my mother's prayers.
What were your mother's prayers?
Oh man, I'm gonna be very that I'm not fat, and that I don't end up lonely, that I'm marriage material, that I make my own money, that I'm a woman of quality. I think she wanted me to, everything that she felt like she did wrong, she wanted me to do right.
Right.
And I think for a long time, I did all of that. I remember sitting on my couch, and I was in a relationship with this guy that was not a person I would date. If I was in my right mind. But I was so
Been there.
indoctrinated into righting her wrongs. I dated the same men like my father, just trying to prove that the relationship that they had was right, because they had like one of those stereotypical long-suffering relationships that black people have, where you get a man when he's immature, you have kids when he's not ready, you pressure him into marriage because you have the kids,
You hold him down to the death. Yeah.
and then you hold him down and go through those but growth and maturity things with him, and as soon as the kids turn 18, you get a divorce. So I mean, that's all I saw growing up. Was heartache, pain, and then the belief that the struggle was going to be over at some point.
The women in your family lasted till the kids were 18?
Yeah. I mean,
that's a little bit more progressive than what I saw.
Well, some women last until the kids are gone too, because they're so codependent. So, I mean, our biggest victory was that we were strong, but at the same time, we were able to be strong with our men. So if you could do those, then you're pretty much successful.
Yeah, I find it interesting that she wanted you to be marriage material, and she also wanted you to make your own money, because nowadays that's kind of like a point of contention, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're a high-powered woman making all this money, can you be marriage material? Because,
Well, she's from the Bay Area, so my mom. So it's a few things about my mom that I think that visually I saw that she didn't have to tell me. I just what I saw of her was enough. So one of the things that when my dad had to go away from his sabbaticals, right, we'll call it that, she took over the household. So I was in a 2-parent, single parent home, right? So I saw her lead a household without a man, and then I saw her suppress herself when her man came home. So I saw both, right? So I think one of the great things that she did teach me was that, one, don't be financially dependent on a man, because you don't know if he's there or not. And I think that's the institutional thing that black families go through, because all our men are incarcerated at a high accelerated rate because of the way that they have to make a means for their family. And I think that we had got accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle that when he did go away, because they didn't have like financial literacy skills to like even out, what if, by chance something happened, that we would go through these really big financial ups and downs, right? So I saw that, and I saw the emotional distress behind that, because she was very irritable when those times came. And I just learned from that. So that's what got me into getting an education, because I never wanted to have a situation where somebody can take my life away from me because I wasn't stable enough to have one on my own outside of a system. Yeah. What was your story about, like, motherhood?
Well, I'd
or
say
being a woman, not even motherhood, like just being a woman.
I'd say there was definitely this idea of like perfectionism and showing up the right way. Like, how you engage with people, how you sit or stand, or what you wear, how your mouth is, how your face looks, your expression, and all of those things, like, that made me feel like I had to be so hyper aware so that I could be accepted into into life, right? Like,
yeah.
And so I think that like, I'm still removing the inner critic that I know is like my mother's voice, or from my childhood and other people's voice that told me you have to show up like this. And really, I just want to be a weird queer awkward black girl.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to like move to the beat of my own drum. I just want to be quirky and and nobody what's the word? Snare at that. I don't
Yeah. No. Yeah.
because I feel like I have been contorting for so long. And like it wasn't until I left my hometown in Jacksonville, and even after college, I moved from Jacksonville to Orlando for school. But actually leaving Florida, period, and moving to New York was the first, when I was like 27, 28. It was the first time I started being able to shed all of those preconditions that had been put on me.
That's a huge contrast. So I have a client, well, no longer he's not because he's doing so well, but he went from Mississippi, a very rural like place in Mississippi, to New York. And so for the first year, he was freaking out because his Bible-toting Christian morals and mentality was being questioned, and he had lived in such a asylum of
it literally is an asylum.
Yeah, of Christian narrative that when he went to New York, which is this very big melting pot, and people are very eccentric in how they, show their individuality and their individuality in their identity, that he really had like an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But he was still high performing. So he had a really great job out of college, part of Nesby, like just doing all these amazing things. But the contrast was like hugely different. Did you go through the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely I did. And it's like, I remember it was a phase, right? So I remember when I would be in New York, I could be this different self. And every time I would go back home, I would notice myself putting back on the layers that were given to me, right? It wasn't actually until, my later years in New York and then when I moved to California that I was able to be like, nah, like, I don't care where I'm going back, when I'm going back home, like, this new me is going with me. I'm not going to be switching up. So yeah, I was well into my late 20s, 30s when that happened.
And that's just proof that code switching doesn't just happen in the workplace.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, my mom married a man who became a pastor. And so, like,
that's
the
a lot
pressures,
of pressure.
the pressures and needing to code switch depending on your, who you're speaking to in the environment was immense. And then, feeling like, actually, can I express myself and be who I am without going to hell, right? Like, that's some really existential shit.
Yeah.
For a long time, my mind was in that existential place because I didn't know how I could, be fully myself without the wrath of God. Like, that's what they teach you. And even though you leave, that conditioning is still in your brain, critiquing you in that way and making you second guess how you're existing.
I had another guest on here who was also talking about her spirituality and her relationship with how she sees herself as a Christian woman. She hey Janae, if you're watching this, she has a Christian girls group that she operates, and what part of her narrative is to innovate the way that young Christian girls like process life and go through life. And one of the things that I was talking to her about was just a stereotype of quote unquote being the good girl. Everybody wants a good girl because I have older brothers that kept me small in that narrative. I had friends, family, whoever you can think about. And then when I started, and this started later on in life. Wasn't when I was younger because I wasn't safe enough to explore. But when I started to kind of go through the natural ebbs and flows of like coming into your own identity, oh my God, I got dragged like left and
from the church girls or
everybody. I had built this ecosystem around me to keep me in that alignment, in that good girl alignment. And when I realized that, like, I kind of had those people around me so that I didn't get out of a line, because of the shame that came along with it. But then when I started to kind of learn myself and learn what wasn't working, I realized how much I had boxed myself in to continue on with that. With
So
that
did you
narrative.
remove those people?
I did. I did. Or I had like really complex conversations with them. But you know the crazy part that what ended up happening is that they ended up changing too. Because I had wanted to change anyway.
But you gave them a little bit of a
I was the first to do it, so
Right.
now, you know, they even to this day I still have some people that you know, decided not that it wasn't for them. And now they're at a space in their life where they can appreciate the level of conversations that I've had, because everything that I was going through was natural. Like what was unnatural was that I wasn't letting myself go through it, and that was actually what was making me depressed.
that part, yes. I remember when I went away to college, my prayer was that I did not make a mistake. I would Isn't that wild? And this was my thought process, because I was like, you have to do everything perfectly in order for you to basically have everything God is supposed to give you,
Exactly.
right? Like, for instance, one, you're supposed to keep your purity, right? I had a nervous breakdown when I first time I had sex, because in my mind and everything I had been taught, now you'll never be in a happy, healthy relationship. Now you're like the scarlet letter, like crazy. And also like the cycles of like rumination of like, oh my God, I could have been up here, but now I'm here. And if I make another mistake, I'll be down here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So just like that ranking of yourself and that self-judgment, you don't need anybody else to come down on you. You don't need your mom. You don't need, the pastor. You don't need the church. You have like embedded that inner critic into your psyche. And, then there comes like the loathing, self-sabotage, all that comes with it, only because you can't see yourself in this, what's that, it's a certain light, this like I can't think of the word, but like this this Madonna light, right, that you have to be in order for people to accept you, in order for people to feel like, okay, you're worthy.
Yeah, and it's all about exclusiveness. That's what was in my family. It was like you have to be exclusive. You can't be accessible. If you're accessible, then to too many people, then you're gonna make the wrong decisions. B attract the wrong person to you, and it was just really a negative. Like it's like they wanted me to be like this damsel in distress and locked away in a castle and wait for a knight in shining armor to come save her. But it's like, as you get older, you become your own person. You're like, this person doesn't exist and they're never coming. Like, why are you setting this up for this failure?
And also, there's no transition. There's no transitional phase between that, like, exclusivity and purity phase or whatever, or like, keeping you away from like, okay, here's actually how you engage with people that you're dating. Here is how you set boundaries. Here is the expectation. Here are the expectations you should have. Here's when you know to walk away. Like, you don't have that conversation. Therefore, I know, and in my case, like, if you're not aware, I was so very naive that like it makes you susceptible to, to abuse, to people crossing your boundaries, to narcissistic people who, are not going to be able to empathize with you. Like, and then you get yourself in a situation you don't also have anywhere to turn to ask for support, because you're not supposed to be in that position in the first place.
And exactly. Listen, people think that these conversations are boring and they're not important. But I have friends to this day that are in those relationships that because they had sex with them or had children with them, they're not going anywhere. And it's not the healthiest relationship to be in. And they just don't want to deal with the condemnation that comes along from family, spirituality and all those other things. Yeah. But when I decide, so I always think back to how I lost my virginity. And I never want my daughter to lose her virginity like that. And it wasn't like I was like disrespected or anything like that, but I was very manipulated. And I was very green. And so that's how he could manipulate me. In every single relationship I've ever been in, it has been from a place of like ignorance. It hasn't been like, I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to do this because I feel that it's empowering. I just got to the point in my life where I'm okay with the decisions that I make because I made them. before like this year, I was always being led or manipulated into something. And like I consider myself a very intellectual, strong woman, right? But that still doesn't negate the conditioning that I had when it came to relationships. And I mean, I'll be transparent. How I lost my virginity was I was dating this guy, and this is my high school boyfriend. I never dated anybody during high school but him, and he was not a virgin. And he was like, "Listen, I know you're a good girl, and I know you're a virgin. You're waiting until you get married to have sex, but I'm not a virgin." And I have needs, and as my girlfriend, if you can't fulfill those needs, then I'm gonna go be with somebody else. And
Damn.
I was like, okay, well, in my mind, I'm like, oh, he wouldn't hurt me, or like he's not gonna do anything like bad. And like I was like contemplating it, and like just like, and I'm thinking like the way he positioned it was like, I love you, but if you can't fulfill this need for me, I'm gonna go get it from somebody else. But I love you, I want to be with you, but I got this need.
And if you decline, maybe you don't love me.
No, it wasn't even that you don't love me. He was just saying like, I got needs that they need to be met. I want to be with you, but this other girl is with it, so I'm gonna go with her, but I want to be with you. So, as a pleaser, that's how I lost my virginity. But it wasn't a mutual decision, right? So I think about that. And he's a good person, still a good person, still talk to this day. But it wasn't my choice.
I think it was very similar for me, in that the conditioning and the pleaser, and also sometimes I get really annoyed and upset at the fact that, like you said, it was just like a year or so ago. Because I'm like, damn, I thought when I left, I did start this process of shedding when I left home. But the fact that the conditioning has affected me up until recently, it really pisses me off, actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I haven't lived in my authenticity the way I should have been living in my authenticity. Like, I'm like, damn, I am 30-some years old. Why am I'm still shedding things.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I took away from like what I've been conditioned to do is like familiarity doesn't mean that person is safe.
Absolutely.
It just means that they're familiar. And I'll tell you about a situation I was in. I was abstinent and I was not holding it hostage but keeping it sacred. He got me drunk. Knew I was abstinent before I even engaged with him. I told him I'm not trying to have sex with you or anything like that. He got me drunk and took advantage of me. And it's kind of a gray area because I shouldn't have been drinking, right? But he also knew that I'm not that type of girl to just be fucking like that.
Why do you say you shouldn't have been drinking? That sounds like you're blaming yourself.
I'm not blaming myself, but again, it goes back to just because a person is familiar with you doesn't mean that they're a safe person, right? And I should have, like, just from, like, wisdom nuggets, right? So some things I took away from that, I don't drink in front of everybody no more because it makes me vulnerable, right? And if you're with the unsafe person and they're familiar with you, they'll take advantage of that familiarity that they have with you. And your body, because that person is a familiar person, it doesn't fight them off the way that you would if you didn't feel safe with them. And so it was a different form of manipulation. It was a very sophisticated, calculated form of manipulation. Because the reason why I knew that he didn't value me and that it wasn't a form of love is because after he had his way with me, I was no good to him. And all those things that I had thought that made us familiar with each other, it was just more of like a let me have that. Like it was more of a possessive thing than it was I'm a safe person. And so I took from that situation that just because a person is familiar with you doesn't mean that they're safe.
Yeah, I had to learn that lesson too.
Yeah,
the very hard way. And like you said, making myself too vulnerable because I wanted to experience this like deep level of connection and intimacy, but I didn't know how to create boundaries around that were healthy for me.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you are a very pure-hearted soul and you have been protected in that very like sheltered way, you think that everybody is that way, but not everybody is that way. And you will be a grown woman, hella grown. Like I was grown with kids, right? And And I still was in an unsafe situation. But again, one of the things that I feel like what affected my decision making is familiarity, and never having that conversation of like, just because a person is familiar doesn't mean that they're safe. And sometimes the people that you're in a relationship with are not safe either, even though you're familiar with them.
Right.
So it doesn't just happen in a situation where you're vulnerable, right? But it also happens in relationships all the time. Like, I can't tell you how many relationships I've been in that were familiar with people that I shouldn't even been with because they're not safe people to be in a relationship with.
I call it the people who were grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they were grandfathered in from that old psyche, from that old environment, and you never did the check. Like, if I would have met you at this age, I would have had, like, check this, all my filters would have been up. But you were grandfathered in, so I had to learn, actually, that nobody gets grandfathered in. I had to go all the way back. My mother doesn't even get grandfathered in, right? Because we're still going to have some boundaries. We're still going to have some different expectations. Like, this is what I'm needing in order to engage with you. Nobody gets a free pass. Nobody gets to be close to me.
Right.
Even if you grew up with me, like, we got to reset.
Yeah.
Like, there's a different standard now.
So how do you feel like women can protect themselves when it comes to like wanting intimacy but also understanding what boundaries and safe people are?
Ooh, girl. So one, I think there's so much manipulation that, first of all, is being aware of people's actions and not what they're saying.
Right.
We can get so caught up in what people are telling us, specifically what, our partners are telling us, or would-be partners are telling us how it's going to be, how they feel, what they're going to do, da-da-da. But if it's not matching up to their actions, like, that's a red flag for me.
And you can get manipulated while being in a relationship. Like, I think that women, especially married women, are just like, this is the reason why I take marriage so serious, because, like, I never want to get married to a man who's manipulative. You know how hard that would be?
Yeah.
To, like,
I've been in that situation before. Oh. Absolutely.
Like, I never want to be married to a manipulator. I think I would take a liar. Even though that's a form of manipulation, but
versus gaslighting, that's gonna make you feel like you're losing it
because you're getting psychologically messed up, and like what manipulation does to you when it's close to you and in the home, it messes up your decision making in life. Mm-hmm. So a person will be at work, is how it was with me, and they'll be fake nice to you. But I was conditioned for that because I come from a family of fake nice people, right? They know how to, like, have a conversation with you surfacely, but you know what they're talking about.
Me too. Even in the church, like I said, my stepdad was a pastor. I would hear them talking shit. You know what I mean? But about we call them parishioners or people who went to the church, and then smiling in their faces like, damn, okay.
Well, I'm talking about fake nice where, like, they'll be saying something rude but have a smile on their face, and their
nice
tone,
nasty.
Yeah, nice nasty. Their tone would be different, and I think that normalizing that, right, and then being in a close, intimate relationship with men who are manipulative. Mm-hmm. When I was in the workforce, trying to be a boss, corporate America is a beast when it comes to manipulation, and if you're not black and white about your boundaries, and if you're not black and white about when to use your voice and when not to, then you're going to go in there and you're going to be messed up.
I think what's crucial is a sense of self-regard, which I am still developing in terms of like where my boundaries are and how stark I want them to be, right? Because when I was younger, I had this sense of self-regard, and then when I would speak up about it, it would be like, oh no, you're doing too much, or that's not how it works. And so it was normalized to behave in this more like subservient way instead of advocating for my needs, even if no one understood my needs. Right. Now I'm like, I don't give a damn if you don't understand my needs. This is what I need. And if you can't do that, we can't hang,
How has therapy helped you with understanding those different dualities?
Well, I think the first thing is just valuing myself to the point where if no one else is engage with me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the problem that I had before was the fear of like abandonment, or a fear that you can't be in a relationship if you assert your boundaries, if you set these expectations. So now I'm like, actually, I've not only do I value myself, but I like really enjoy my own company. You know, I'm a proponent of being solo sexual too, right? Like pleasing yourself. So there is not an element where I feel like I am going to be missing something from a person if they don't engage with me.
Oh my God. So part of my conditioning and what set me up for codependency was that like I always tell people this, like the biggest failure that I feel like, you know, quote unquote, according to society's terms, is that I was raised to be a wife, but I've never been married before. Like literally the conditioning that I had, like I should have had a PhD in being a wife, but like I was taught from this place of brokenness, and my spirit just won't let me. Like my spirit is a warrior spirit. I have a warrior spirit at heart. So even though my mind tells me to do these subservient things, I cannot do them for long term.
Codependency is a beast. Is a beast. But I'm curious as to where, like, what's your line? You know what I mean? Like, as we say, you can't do it for a long time. What's your spark that's like, actually, I'm done with this?
Well, I don't go into situations wanting to get married anymore. Right? I think the first step for me was saying that, not that I don't want to be a wife, because I do want to be married. Right? I'm already am a wife because I'm wife material. And when somebody matches my energy husband wise, then we'll talk about that. But as far as anything else goes, everybody's just friends, right? Another thing that has helped me with that is being solo sexual. And I took Tantra to help me get outside of that Christian mindset that you had to have a man on top of you for you to feel pleasure. Because honestly, if we're being transparent about it, the orgasms weren't really that great.
Listen.
Like I could have had a V8.
Could have had a V8.
Could have had a V8.
Yeah. And that's where I am. I can like satisfy myself so well, and not just physically. Like I feel the love feelings for myself.
Yeah.
And like how you're talking about, I was kind of raised as like, if you're not a whole woman unless you got married.
Yeah.
And so I was like striving for that, you know, in my 20s, and I did get married, and it didn't work because I was not developing myself. I put my focus into something else, into this whole institution, before I, you know, turned it in on myself to, you know, to grow my own self into the woman that I wanted to be. I was just chasing this feeling of completion because, you know, my mom and other women in the church were just like, the expectation was, you don't get married, you're not a whole woman yet. Like, you don't get the respect, you know what I mean? We don't get to be part of these conversations. And it was really frustrating, too, because I remember doing, like, a survey before I got married, you know, while we were just dating. And no married people wanted to tell me anything. They did not share, like, what the challenges were. People don't want to talk about, you know, their intimate relationships. I was trying to figure out, why is the divorce rate so high? What actually goes on in marriages that I need to be aware of? And it really just felt like something where they're like, girl, just go get married and you'll find out.
Yeah, because I'll be an end all be all. And I think that for me, like, I'll give like a year tops, you know, into the relationship. Sex was good because we were both inviting and we were both doing it. And then it just became performative for me. I think the last real relationship that I was in, I had my spiritual awakening during that time frame. And before I had got with him, I should have never got with him at that time because I had left my son's father, and he was extremely emotionally manipulative. So I didn't take the break that I needed to from that relationship to this next relationship. So I just carried all of those issues and those traumas into that relationship, and I was trying to show up as a healthy woman who has that vitality in the bedroom, but I just didn't. So it became like a performative type thing. Like I was hiding something when I was having sex with him, right? And it wasn't pleasurable for me. So when I left that relationship, when I was on my healing journey, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I want to have sex, but it's like, but I'm not ready to share my body intimately,
right,
you know, with a man, and it just be for a vice, you know? So to get me out of that pattern, I took up Tantra, and I remember, and this is for those women who are like, just, you guys are dry.
Damn.
It's like, just try something on for size. When I started taking tantra and learning about my body from a place of like not being disassociated from it, but from a place of like my body has its own needs, and if I can't meet my own needs, then how can I ever please a man? Perspective, right? Because I don't know what I like. Like the older you get and you're not married and you're single, the more men want you to know what to do and what you like. Because I've been in situations where they'll ask, "What do you like?" And I'll just like, whatever you want, like
Whatever he wants.
whatever you want, right? Because it's like, like coming to America, whatever you like, whatever. Because that's that conditioning, right?
Right.
So when I started doing tantra, it was like there's nobody there, so it's just like your orgasms, your points on your body that what arouses you, what do you like, because when you're with a healthy man, they want to please you, but if you don't know how to please yourself, you really can't have that intimate conversation. So anyways, long story short, I got some tricks, I did them, and I started crying
Why?
because it felt that good.
Oh, wow.
I've talked to my friends about that, and a lot of them have never done that before.
You talk about with the partner or with yourself?
Myself.
Oh, me too. I have had that experience.
cried
No,
too?
I have also
Oh
had that
my
experience,
God.
Nia. And it blew my mind. That's why I said, oh my God, I may be solo sexual, like self-monogamous and shit, because I was blown away by the what is it, endorphins or whatever
Yes.
whatever floods you when you have this, an orgasm. But it was like I was connecting with myself,
Yes.
in a very intimate way, in a very in a real way, and it felt like a higher level way.
Let me tell
and
you.
I did cry because I was like, oh my God, like I felt relief and I felt freedom and I felt love. And I was like, I don't need another person to give me this.
There's healing in orgasms that women don't understand. That because we're disconnected from that conversation because of patriarchy. But my life coach is a pastor, right? I keep him because he keeps me, hey, because sometimes I'll be doing too much. So I was telling him, now I'm happy because I can have these conversations with him, because at first I was like kind of timid about him, right? Because he's a pastor. But I have these conversations with him, and he tells me that these are normal interactions. He actually told me that more Christian women need to self-pleasure because that's an old, very, very, very dated mindset. And I have a woman who is like a spiritual mentor to me that attends the same church as me, and she tried to condemn me for self-pleasure, and she told me that was a sin and all these other things. This very same woman has been abstinent, waiting for her husband for over 40 years, and she's having hormonal issues because of it. And so I told her, I said, listen, that's not my calling. Like, everybody has their own calling. Me sitting here and being this Bible-toting Christian that's waiting for her husband to come sit here, that's not me. And as a clinician, I'm saying to you, like, what your medical doctor has told you, like, your thoughts don't align with your body. But that's body disassociation.
Yep.
Like, if you're having a medical issue because you're not producing enough estrogen, because you're not producing the amount of orgasms that you should have, orgasms are not for pleasure. They're for body regulation. And a lot of women, because they're being led by a Bible and not really focusing on the physicality and the physiological side of being a woman, they're disassociated from their own feminine needs because they're so indoctrinated into a white man's Bible. And no disrespect,
The patriarchy.
right? Because I was that woman too. But like, I feel like to me, you could be a lot of different ways of being a woman leader. You could sit here and be a boss bitch, boss entrepreneur, whatever you wanted to be. But if you can't tell me about yourself, you can't lead me. And that's just how it is. Like, right? Because I've had some women who have led me in business and been way too alpha. And when I come in here with I still keep it sexy and classy, but I'm not a man. And I'm not trying to take it there with you either. Mm-hmm. It's like a sense of dominance they have because they see me and they see femininity and they equate that to weakness. right?
And they want to
challenge me in that. And so I've had like women mentors who have tried to make me feel bad for being feminine and still being a leader. But that's why I had to go on my own journey, because I'm my own entity, right? And there's women out here that's just like me who still want to show up and keep it sexy and classy, but at the same time can make decisions at the table right along with those alpha females. I don't have to show up in a masculine way to exert my dominance. I'm going to exert my dominance through being patient and saying what I mean and letting my actions prove that I'm a voice. And if you can't respect that, then you can't eat from this fruit. And I think that that's real feminine quality and leadership, because it doesn't make you have to code switch when you go home. And I was in a relationship with a guy. He said, listen, I don't want you to be the same person that you at in the boardroom when you come home. Right? And I thought to myself, well, how am I? I didn't even know that there was a difference, right? But, you know, when you're with an alpha male, and I hate that word, but when you're with a man who has his own essence, he's not trying to be dominated by that woman, like when he get home. But I think that sometimes we don't get reminded of that, or if you're too alpha, you seek, like, you think that he's weak or whatever you may have in that. I'm not that type of woman. You know, I'm a one where I grew up very Christian in my mindset, so I do have a level of submissiveness to me, but it's intentional, right? I do think for me and my ego, there is a level of submissiveness that I need to have, because I can't cross those boundaries and those lines. But that's why I think emotional intelligence in a relationship is king, right? Because you can't tell me from a place of insecurity how to handle you. I'm not going to respect that. But I will respect the conversation that you're like, listen, this is my boundaries. This is how I operate. This is what makes me be my higher self. I want you to be your higher self, but these are my deal breakers, right? But it takes a level of maturity to have those conversations. But I feel like if you're a woman who's a boss and a leader and you're still trying to be in your feminine essence, then, you know, you're going to have those components that come along with femininity, you know, to be able to really show up the way that you need to show up both in a both and situation, not have to code switch, as often. Because I was code switching way too much, like people pleasing.
Can you give it, in the boardroom as well?
Yeah. So white girl voice, even saying stuff like, "This is awesome." Don't even talk like that. Yes. Etiquette. Don't put your elbows on the table. Attire. Don't wear color. Hair slick back or bone straight. Makeup light but natural. Clothes not too tight, but because you don't want to show your ass. And protective bras that don't show too much cleavage. You know, all that. And then in a home, don't say too much because you may hurt his feelings. Leave room for error. You know, don't always be nitpicky on what he's doing. Men make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. It's a struggle to be in love, and everything is it takes time. And what else? When you're a powerful woman, you're going to date weak men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not when you're a powerful woman, you would date more powerful men?
No, you date weaker men.
Damn.
So there's like a sense of like settling, you know, that I feel like was being pressed upon me. And I just came to a point where it's just like, because I was actually finding people to fit those stereotypes. So my type used to be Fortune 500, tech, well on its way to making six figures or not making six figures, white picket fence, vacations. That was me dating up. But then I actually continued to date these high performing men, and they're just like a guy that would be working, doing whatever and not making that much. It really doesn't matter, you know, which pot you eating from. But I feel like the turning point for me was like, what do you want? What idealistically, like, what does that picture perfect or that companion look like? And then like, how much of this is my conditioning, and then how much is what I want,
right?
You know, independently. So that's the journey that I've been on with self-pleasuring. and being solo sexual, it's not that I don't want to have sex with men, right? Because I love sex. I just want quality sex. I think I've had trash sex my entire life. My body's like, yeah, we can kind of go like, home
worth
and
it.
like, yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. For me, I feel like I've done so much healing work in my sexual areas that having sex with a toxic man makes me physically sick.
Yeah, I saw something the other day. It was like a meme or something. It was like, you're healing when the excitement that you used to feel of toxicity changes, and you like the boringness is like the peace. You know, I'm like totally there. I'm totally there. And for me, it's more so about safety.
Yeah.
Like if I can feel safe to be a freak, if I can feel safe to be vulnerable, if I can feel safe, like then. But like there's levels, right? There's levels to that safety, and that there's levels to that intimacy. And I've also come to like the conclusion that if I can't have that safe intimacy, like I'm just not going there at all.
Yeah. And I think the misconception is like they don't think that women actually want to do more.
It's so silly. That's such a lie. But I think that in the same way that like I think a lot of women, I mean a lot of men these days are talking about, oh, women need to submit. Not these days, they've been talking about that. But I feel like actually women really don't have a problem doing that naturally when they feel safe.
Yeah, when they feel. I think the main word is safe, because you'll have some men that exploit that.
Exactly. And especially growing up conservative, that's what you feel like you should bring in order to have a healthy relationship or a relationship at all, right? And then you don't have that range of like, actually this is a boundary. I'm not going to do that. And like, if you want to walk away, that's cool too. But something you were saying made me think about something that my mom told me, and it's just an example too of the conditioning. Because she told me, don't sleep naked. She said, because you're more susceptible to spirits, she said. And I'm like, what, are they going to come through my vagina? Like, what's going to happen?
Some people really believe that.
Like, people believe that. But if you're sleeping with a man, you know what I mean? It's okay. I was just, like, so confused by that. So, like, there's definitely these spoken and unspoken, like, ways of being that have just been put on women in all these aspects. In the workplace, at home, da-da-da-da. And that's what I was saying in the beginning. Like, I'm just in the process of shedding all of that. Anybody's expectation of me, like, I'm going to go left.
What's the best thing you ever said about you?
Ooh, the best thing. I think the like social people pleasing of like how to show up in a group, or like when I'm just out and about, right? Like I used to, like now if I want to be nonverbal, I'm nonverbal. You know what I mean? I'll say the minimum, and I'm not going to apologize for it because today I'm nonverbal. Or like, there's just certain ways of being, how you dress, when you come and go, like, who you talk to. And I'm just like, I'm not following any of that like preset stuff. Like I'm just kind of in my own, I'm moving to the beat of my own drum. I'm like going in the wind in my own beat. And it can be all of the above. Like I think I go left a lot of times when people expect me to go right, and I don't make excuses for it anymore. Not excuses, but I don't like explain myself anymore. It is what it is. And I'm more prone to letting people think what they want to think, because I don't feel like clearing anything up. Like that's not my business. And I just feel so good to be, it burdened me for so long, all the little things. Even showing up, how you were talking about, showing up to be beautiful, showing up, you got to have your hair this way. You got to, do all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to show up like that. I don't want to do all that. I don't want to wear all that makeup. I don't want to go to the salon. Like I'm sick of it. One time, oh my gosh, I'm so glad the natural hair movement came about, because it was like probably like 10 years ago now, and I was getting a relaxer and burn. Like it was just ridiculous. And I was like, I'm sick of this shit.
Right.
I don't care anymore. Like, I let my leg hair grow, my underarm hair grow, and I'm just like, it is what it is. Okay.
I always say I was the epitome of like, I mean, even to this day, like when people who know me from my past and like, why are you doing all these things? And like, what are you doing? Like, I've had people, you know, on my social media stop following me, because I'm not this picture of
Prim and proper.
I feel like because I'm very, me, like, you know, I show up
As a whole person.
Yeah. And I used to show up like stereotypical, like what you would picture like a person who you would want to aspire to be to. So I have people who I don't even know that look up to me, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that kept me going. But I was suffering in silence a lot behind closed doors and failed relationships and just a lot of career things that I just stopped being perfect. Like, I stopped trying to live my life based off what people saw of me or thought of me, right? And I think that when people talk to me about that, I speak from a sense of freedom that they want. Because every single time that I have these conversations with them, they're like, oh, I wish I could do that. I can't wait to do that. It's like, well, you can actually do that right now. Like, there's nothing.
But you have to break the seal first.
Yeah. There's nothing. So I think that I'm having more quality conversations rather than quantity conversations. I feel that I'm not addicted to not being lonely. I think a lot of women are addicted to not being lonely, and so they lead themselves from a lonely narrative, and that's where the shame comes at in the decisions that they make. But rather than doing that and exploring loneliness, they go and do all these other extra things like get in a relationship they don't like, or overwork, or don't take care of themselves, or have kids. You know, they do all these distractions.
You can do that for years and years.
Exactly. And some women have found success in doing that, and because they haven't faced themselves, they perpetuate negative cycles that end up being toxic to pass down to young women. And that's what I was saying, those two women that I have that were very alpha, when I got behind, like, close intimately with them, their personal lives were trash. And one of them were married. And her husband just could, like, he wanted to support her, but she was just, like, way too masculine. Like, he wanted to also come home to a feminine woman. And she's short hair, you know, because, you know, being an entrepreneur, she was a bull. She was after her bag. And she was getting her bag. And she taught me how to get my bag. Like, if you want to learn how to get a bag, she'll teach you how to get it back. But she had no type of hold on her personal life. And I looked at her personal life, and I looked at me, and I said, one of the things that drives me is that I don't want to have to sacrifice motherhood or a future relationship with my spouse because I'm too something in one direction, because I'm in this survival mode trying to get the bag. And I feel like during this feminine divine time of leadership, there are going to be a lot of archetypes of women that show up and be women leaders. And I think, well, I know one of the things that I'm continuously driving home as a narrative is to be my own sounding voice, you know, behind the woman, behind the vision that everybody sees. And I think I gave up on the idea that I can't have it all. Because, like, why am I telling myself that? Like, I like, something inside of me, and I remember this prayer I had said. I was doing this mental wellness speech like, I think it's like 4 years ago at this church, and I literally got in front of the church, and this is what I'll do. My spirit will be led, because I'm a very spirit led person. It'll say some stuff, and I was like, God, spare me nothing.
Spare you nothing?
Spare me nothing. Never say that prayer.
Okay, noted.
Because managing that is a lot. But I'm not a person that goes back on my word. So I just ask for grace in what I ask for. Because I truly I want my life to be fulfilled. I don't want to be spared anything that fulfillment. But I don't know how to manage having it all.
Okay, that's where my life totally, like, took a very chill pill when I recognized that. Like, actually, I just need to focus on being on and existing within myself and having that be a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Like, instead of running here, there, to this person, that person, like, I really put the energy and the effort and the work into making my mental, spiritual, emotional world someplace where I could exist and be at peace and be content and be happy. So that way, like, I'm already filled up. And I also, like, I also used to have this, like, very specific, what do you call them, dreams, or like these accomplishments that you have to, like, you have to have, you have to make this certain amount of money. And at some point I was like, I just want to exist in this moment and be happy.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, like, fell away. I was like, I don't need to be a millionaire, actually.
Right.
I just want to be comfortable and wake up when I want to. If I could I'd rather wake up when I want to and, like, go where I want when I want, rather than being on this, like, intense schedule and then have a lot of money in the bank. And so, like, my life values shifted so much that the goals that I felt like I had to be perfect in order to achieve, like, I let it go. But also, I feel like, I experienced a lot of heartache, heartbreak, and tragedy that showed me I'm not in control anyway.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, it actually freed me to be able to, be like, actually, I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to do all these things. I can give grace to myself. I don't have to show up. I don't have to do things exactly the right way every time. And it just allowed me to just, like, breathe and relax, because before then I would always have this sort of self-critique that, like, oh, well, especially in engaging with somebody else, right? I was the type that, like, even if you were 100% wrong, if I was 2% wrong, I was, like, apologizing profusely for my 2%. And now I'm like, the power dynamic is different, right? Because I'm rolling myself over the coals because I didn't do everything perfectly when this other person was doing XYZ. So, comprehending that actually I'm going to just do my best, and that's all that matters anyway, because in reality, I don't have control, because when I've dropped the ball, stuff has still kept going on, right? And I saw that it wasn't me. And then also, I've done everything perfectly at times and stuff went awry. So I'm like, you know what? I can take that pressure off of myself. I can literally just exist. And that's what I'm focused on, is just existing on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis as a content, happy, whole human being that is safe within myself and that can navigate the world, in that way.
I have so many questions, but we are, like, past on time. Okay. So I'm going to ask the questions, and, just for the audience, and I hope to bring you back on so that we can continue this conversation. One question I really want that's like, is like, innovatively, how are you innovative being a Black woman, right? What would be your, if you could have it all, ideal relationship dynamics, right? And what is something that, if you can modify, adjust, or enhance your experience of being a Black woman, what would it be?
Ooh.
Yeah. Those are questions that, because I want the audience to come back.
Okay.
And because I think that you're such a valuable wealth of knowledge and resource, I love to have you back for these, girlfriend conversations, because this is just for me, just being like a analytical person, right? I don't have conversations like this very often with women who can keep up with me. And I think that from the right side of your left side of processing, like, your experience of being being a Black woman in your womanhood, Black women don't have the intellect or self-awareness enough and have not done the work independently to have these conversations. So I know that we're having very, very intentional, spiritual, healing conversations, because, if anybody could take anything from this exploration and what we've been talking about, I think for those Black women who are trying to show up a specific type, it doesn't exist. And you're literally dictating your relationships, financials, where you raise your kids, who you are in your community, based off of archetype that don't exist. And these conversations are timely because we're innovating what it means to just be a person in general. And I love to see Black women being at the forefront of that. So, just for the audience sakes, where can we find you at in 5 years, Stevie?
Ooh, 5 years. In 5 years, you can find me still developing, get some joy. And honestly, I think my lifestyle, in terms of, my day to day, I think it will be pretty similar. Maybe just more money in the bank, but not in a way that it will, cause me to break my spirit or compromise my values and my boundaries. I'm really appreciating the sense of like autonomy that I have, and just like moving freely, and not being, on anyone's schedule, not being, and also releasing that inner critic, those layers. I think more and more of those layers will be gone, right? Because I'm still finding things, being able to take time that I don't have to work for somebody else, or I don't have to do this, or I'm not expected to do this. I can just sit and ponder and reflect. I'm an Aquarius like you, so love to do that. Like, I'm still finding things, and I'm like, oh, you know what? That's not necessary anymore. Like, I can shed that. And so I'm really appreciating that exploration, and I'm just going to continue doing that. Like, I am my most important project. So like that's what I'll be working on. Maybe. And then the other things that align with that, my business and my wellness work just is supportive of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about aligning my own self, like in person. And then what comes of it comes of it. That's how I want to live now.
Can I add to that? I want in 5 years you to be doing some really great programming, maybe like a 1 or 2 day conference for RC Wellness brand when it comes to Black womanhood. I think that you're such a wealth of young talent. Thank you. So vital that oftentimes women get to their 50s and 60s and have these same revelations that you're having in your 30s. And I think that will save a lot of young women time and older women effort in going down rabbit holes that they don't need to go down, because we would have put on those programs to help them with the information they need to live a better lifestyle as a Black woman. So I hope and pray that in 5 years, when we're looking back at this audio and this visual testimony, that we're calling in that, because I feel like you are such a vital matriarch in real time that oftentimes you run out of time to be a matriarch and we don't have the time anymore. My best friend just defending her dissertation, and she's a woman study major, and so she chose to do her dissertation on these 3 Black women artists. And these Black women were so busy being community figures, mothers, and all those other things that Black women don't get any type of credibility for doing, that the work that they left behind wasn't archived correctly. One is sitting in storage, getting messed up because the family keep fighting over it and what they want to do with it. And so they never really got to like solidify their legacy because they were so busy doing other things that come along with being a Black woman. And so just in knowing that, and what is on the other side of if you don't do your body of work before you leave here, we're missing out on so much information because we're too busy being all those other things that come along with the role and obligation of being a Black woman. And so like, even for myself, I've told myself, Nia, at some point, you have to solidify the work that you're doing. So I'm calling you up forth with me, right, in 5 years, that we be able to put out a body of work that women will recognize us for. And that when we go into the Smithsonian Museum in D.C., the African American history one, that we be a part of that.
You know what? Maybe it could be a series like Dump the Plate. Dump the Plate.
Yeah.
The whole plate.
That we be a part of that. I was thinking, like, we think of legacy from an afterthought. Why don't we just think about it before, as a before thought, and work towards that afterthought? We already know how you get into a museum. You make history. So, like, why not us?
Why not us?
Why not?
I'm down.
So, we are doing that.
You can do that.
Well, it has been a pleasure. I know I have been, like, not making a lot of eye contact because I've been so engaged in our conversation. You're a really engaging person. And I think it's because you have very beautiful eyes and you're smart.
Thank you.
And you have a great smile too. So you're a really beautiful woman to look at, and you have something to say.
That's you.
Very intoxicating. So I was all like, yeah. So But anyways, audience, you're here. This beautiful queen just blessed us with so many nuggets and knowledge. She had me engaged. I hope she had you engaged too. But this has been another amazing episode of Black Exploration with Nia. And I'm hoping that Stevie will come back and finish that part 2 with those questions. If you guys have answers to those questions, or maybe those questions were on your mind, send us your responses. I want to read some of them off. Like, you can follow us on Instagram, Ridger Consulting, on all social media handles. And I am excited to have you a part of my emailing list. So if you have not joined, please join our emailing list. We're also a part of this amazing collective that Justin is putting in. And so he's going to have those on the show notes of how you can get tapped in with his network too, because he's doing an amazing thing. He has other shows that's on his network too, that I think that a lot of our audience can get diversity in their conversations. So thank you again for being a part of our conversation. Click this link to like. Please share it. And I'll see you back next time. Peace.